Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here to be talking about Lilo and Stitch 2025. Now, this is another new live-action adaptation from Disney, which we just keep getting a bunch of these. And obviously, this film is actually, I feel like, one of the ones that I was really looking forward to of them doing a live-action adaptation until I actually saw it. Because this film just, I felt like, had a lot of potential, and obviously the audience over time has regrown because people love the character of Stitch and relate to the story of Lilo and Stitch, and it was just a unique and different area that was really focused on being in Hawaii from Disney animation at the time, and even kind of still now, not really a lot of representation in that general area. So to be able to want to go and see this film, and a lot of it seemed to be going great because obviously how Stitch looks is really terrific. And I really thought they got the model done pat for him. And obviously the original voice, Chris Sanders, who was one of the directors and who worked on the original, comes back to voice, not direct or any of that, which is pretty apparent when you watch the film. But, he came back to perform as the character, which he did great. And, the casting looked good, like the actress they got for Lilo, Nani, David, and even the Bubbles character, like the cast seemed pretty solid. And then when you watch the film, which I have to say I really need to dive into spoilers because there's no way I can really talk about the film and why there's been such a negative reaction for the most part from this film without really diving into spoilers. So the main problem I felt like with the film is it does stuff so dramatically different in a lot of ways that angers original people, which I was really annoyed at some of the changes as well. And some of the stuff they keep, like some voice, like some lines and stuff in the film, is done in a half-assed type of way. Like near the beginning, when the social worker visits and Nani is chasing Lilo around the house, obviously mad by how Lilo made them both look bad, and what's at risk of her losing Lilo, and their dialogue, which is pretty much beat for beat, and her running around the house chasing her and stuff. And it was just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just done in a not as good way as the original, with the with the line deliveries and some slapstick, with the them screaming, which is supposed to be, I guess it's supposed to be serious and all, but it's kind of funny. And then they had the goat scream, so it's just kind of silly. And the new changes that they did, they add a neighbor, which plays a pretty big role come the conclusion, that is a new character. And they this new lady who is the social worker, not Bubbles, but Bubbles does play a role in the film, but he's more doing the CIA type of stuff, so he isn't the social worker here, but he still is kind of integral to the film coming out near the end, and he wasn't in it as much as I would think. And also, when you're watching the film, I feel like I'm going a mile a minute, but there's just so much they change for the worse. The animation looks terrible in a lot of aspects, especially with the space stuff near the beginning. And it makes sense because when you're watching, you find out that the reason why this stuff looks terrible is because the budget, I heard, was only $100 million. And it was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus straight to streaming type movie like Lady and the Tramp or something. But they realized there's money to be had here, so let's put it in theaters instead of, giving it more money. And that's why it makes sense when you're watching the marketing. There wasn't really that much showing the actual movie. It was just Stitch being cute, doing little cameo posters, running around, and all that nonsense. And it's it makes sense because I think they knew the movie wasn't going to live up to the original. So they had to do this type of marketing, which kind of fits into the original marketing, because when they marketed the original Lilo and Stitch, it had Stitch cameoing in different posters from, different Disney stuff. And that one poster where it's there's one in every family, and it shows, everyone there. So it makes sense why they marketed it like that. But it was still kind of tricking us because this wasn't the film that a lot of us were expecting. For example, a huge character that's not in this film is Captain Gonto. He's just not in the film. And he was the main antagonist of the first film. And because he's not there, they make Jumba, who was the scientist who created Stitch, the antagonist. And like that just obviously changes how his arc is in the original film, and that angered a lot of people. And obviously the end of the film, which is the thing that reset a lot of people off, but there's some context that needs to be added, is that by the end of the film, Lilo is given to the social services by Nani, and that was the thing that everyone ran with and freaked out because that goes against the Ohana and all that type of stuff. But the context is that neighbor that I mentioned, Lilo is living with that neighbor, and I believe that neighbor is the mom for David, who is Nani's kind of love interest. So she's still living in close proximity of the area while Nani is going to college for marine biology. But they had a portal gun that the aliens had, so she could still drop in and out pretty frequently to still visit Lilo. So she's there but not really there. So there's a bit of context there where they are still together and all, but they're obviously being helped by the neighbor that lives near them and stuff. So that was an interesting change, but I know that upset a lot of people. I think knowing the full context makes it okay for me. But yeah, this film was a mess in a lot of ways. Obviously, Lilo and Stitch and some of the casting performances I thought were really solid. Stitch really carries the movie in a lot of ways, as he should, because it's like the main character. But those main changes of no Captain Gonto, add in that ending, which goes against kind of in a way the Ohana, making Jumba the main bad guy, which really butchers his character, and all that type of stuff really just makes the film drag down for me in terms of how I would rate it. And I mean, if I was ever going to rewatch Lilo and Stitch, I would rewatch the original, which I did a few days prior, before seeing this, just to see how they would compare. And obviously, like all these remakes, the original was way better. So with all that said, those are my thoughts on Lilo and Stitch 2025. Again, what did you all think of this film? Please let me know down below in the comment section, and if you want to hit the bell as well to get notified of when I upload, that would mean so much to me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.